Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. Today we're going to be covering the next storyline for Damage. Now let me explain who Damage is. You see, during DC Metal, the entire multiverse was broken and the source wall was shattered and new superheroes were created in the world of DC. They came out with 8 books. Holy crap, I held up the right number of fingers in one go. They came out with 8 books, and in that series are new superheroes. Damage is pretty much DC's version of the Hulk, written by Robert Venditti, and I am truly enjoying it. So it's a series that will be continuing on this channel. When we last left off, we discovered who Damage was and what his origin was. And today, we're going to see one of his next fights. In our last video, we watched the beginning of the story of Ethan Avery, a soldier selected to participate in Project Damage. The serum injected into Ethan's body would allow him to, once every 24 hours, turn into a destructive monster known as Damage for 1 hour. After learning of the things that he's done while being Damage and the things that he is supposed to do as a weapon, Ethan broke free of the grasp of Colonel Jonas, the woman that started it all. On a sugarcane farm in Louisiana, a farmer gets ready to collect the season's harvest when he notices something is wrong with his tractor. He hops down and looks at the harvester and he sees the vines tangled around the components and he asks, "How did these get here?" Just as he says that, more vines slither out, grabbing the farmer and his assistant, and they lift him into the air. Poison Ivy tells the men, "Welcome to the dusk of men and the dawn of the age of Flora." Meanwhile, over at the state of New Orleans, a truck driver makes his stop at a rest station to grab some coffee before he heads into town. However, what the trucker doesn't know is that in the back of his truck sits Ethan Avery, the man that was injected with the Damage serum. As Ethan sleeps, he remembers back to when he was first injected with the serum and what it did to his body. The pain he went through, the eyes of the doctors that were watching, and her, Colonel Jonas. As Damage screams and breaks through his restraints, Ethan in the real world shouts as he pushes open the door to the truck. Just as he does, the trucker himself steps back out asking, "What's going on?" Ethan jumps down and he starts to walk away, telling the man that he's sorry, he'll be on his way. The trucker looks back at his cargo and sees nothing stolen and then tells Ethan, "Hang on a second." Ethan tells him, "I didn't mean to cause any trouble, I just wanted to get to New Orleans to look for some work." The man then asks, "You need a job?" "Well, I can relate. What kind of work you looking for?" Ethan tells him that he's not really picky, and the man smiles, telling him that his cousin Jose also needs a few hands for his agricultural crew. It's not fun, but it pays cash. By the way, the name is Jorge Hernandez. How about you? Ethan looks at Jorge's shirt and sees a coffee stain, and he tells him, "Mark, coffee." Jorge laughs and says, "All right, how about we both get a fresh cup? We'll be on our way." Also at this time, in a diner in Atlanta, the last place that Ethan was when he changed into Damage, Jonas asks the woman Misha if she's found anything yet. Misha doesn't look up from her investigation and says that the prey has entered, and they sat at booth number 3 and then exited back out into the parking lot. Jonas tells her that the person they're looking for isn't prey, he's a soldier, one who can take out an enemy battalion by himself, and his name is Ethan Avery. One of the men in the back, Handyman, says that she did the right thing paying Mr. Leash for their services. Misha will find their stray and Cataract will get them close. As everyone steps outside, Handyman goes on stating that the best part is they can line up some witnesses and paparazzi right here to show them the details that they need. Of course, it's a coin flip whether or not the witness is lobotomized afterwards. Jonas tells them that they will check the diner's surveillance first. Civilians won't be brought into this unless it's absolutely necessary. Back over with Ethan, he sits in the back of the truck with a few other men, waiting to arrive at the farm that they're going to be working at. As the men make jokes as to how Ethan is the only white guy in the group, another says that they may want to hire a new driver. Jose, Jorge's cousin, jumps out looking to see a forest, and he asks how this forest is even possible. This is the Carey Plantation, but these trees look like they've been here for years. Ivy then steps out telling them, "Look, more murderers have arrived to earn their blood money." As one of the men asks who the lovely lady is, she wraps them up in vines, telling them that they will be working for her now. Welcome to the New World Order. While the men are lifted into the air, Ethan watches, and Damage tells him, "You know what you have to do. Let me out. They helped you, and now they need me." Ethan tells him, "All right, but you have to promise to let me remain in control." And Damage says, "No promises. Time to do some damage." Ethan transforms into Damage, jumping into the sky, and he slams back onto the ground, throwing Ivy off balance. Ivy is thrown back and says, "Finally!" A man who lets himself look like the monster that he really is. Damage begins to charge towards Ivy, but as she gets up, vines shoot out of the ground, wrapping around him. He struggles to try and free himself, and Ethan yells for him that he needs to fight and save everyone. But before Damage can break free, one of the vines crawls into his mouth and down his throat. As Damage continues to try and break out, Ivy tells him that it's pointless to struggle. The world of man will succumb to the power of the plant kingdom. Ethan screams to fight. He has to let him out because he said that he could stop Poison Ivy. Now do something! Damage's eyes begin to roll to the back of his head, and Ivy says that he came to reap, and this is what he's sown. It's time for him to sleep. Within 4 minutes of transforming, Damage was defeated. As Ethan blacks out, he remembers back to when he was put through a series of tests, all when he was Damage. After the hour marker, his body would begin to change back, and he would tell whoever is listening that he doesn't want to do this anymore. Jonas would ask what's going on, and one of the scientists explained that the Damage program is an extension of the Our Man program. The subject has a 1-hour limitation on changing, perhaps because the limitations of the human physiology, or simply put, his body might not be able to handle it for any longer. However, it would make sense that he requires a 23-hour recuperation period before he can change into Damage again. While the scientists continue to talk with Jonas, another soldier runs to check in on Ethan. The man whispers to him that if he can hear him, remember the unknown soldier. And later that night, the vines holding Ethan are cut and he falls to the ground coughing. He looks up to see Jose, and Jose pours water into his mouth. Ethan notices the other men held up by the vines, and he asks why didn't he save his friends first. And Jose tells him that he knows why. They need him to Damage again. Ethan says that it doesn't work like that. He needs to rest before he can do it. But just then a light shines into the shack, and Jonas helps Ethan to his feet, and the two run out of the back of it. Ivy walks in and sees the vines cut and shouts, "No! You will be avenged, seedling!" As she says that, she screams out in pain, and her green skin begins to change back to normal skin. She looks around, stating that the people don't deserve this. There are other ways. However, then her skin begins to change back to green, and she begins to yell again, "No! Humanity will get exactly what it deserves, starting with the monster that got away." As the sun begins to come back up, Ethan opens his eyes and he sees himself and Jose sitting in a sewer, and he asks how long he was asleep. Jose breaks off a piece of sugarcane, stating that it's almost noon. They're still on the plantation, but the plants can't see them here. He needs to change back into that big man again. The news called him a monster in Atlanta, and when he changed, perhaps someone was attacking him back in Atlanta too? Ethan tells him that what he wants him to do, he can't. He can't just have him cut loose. Just leave them there and they'll call the police. Jonas asks, what are the police going to do? My friends need to be saved, and it needs to be you. Ethan rubs his head, stating that he wanted to matter to people, do something important, like Superman or the Flash. He joined the army to be a hero, and they made him into this. Lately, he's been remembering things, bad things, like Colonel Jonas, the woman who started it all, and how she lied about what she made him into. But then there was someone else, a man stating, "Remember the unknown soldier." Ethan looks up at the vines spreading over the sewer, and he asks what if he hurts the people he's trying to save, and Jose tells him Eldano couldn't hurt them last time. Maybe you can be a hero, no matter what. You're better than what the woman will do to them. Ethan jumps to his feet and he starts to run, and Jose asks where is he going, and he yells that he'll control it this time. And Damage tells him, "Oh, we'll see. I wasn't made to be controlled. Jonas wanted a living weapon." Ethan begins to change, and Damage begins to growl, and Damage's hour timer, it begins. Damage jumps out of the ground and onto the plantation, and as he looks around, Ivy sees him, and she says that she was worried that her little monster stomped away. She has a surprise for him. It's time that he met her partners. Just then, there's a crack of lightning, and as Damage looks up, Gorilla Grodd shouts, "Warriors of Gorilla City, attack!" As the gorillas engage Damage, Ivy rides a vine up to Grodd, telling him that she is growing his new jungle home. The monster is the only complication. Grodd says that his army will crush them. Damage will kneel before Grodd. The gorillas begin to hit Damage with their spears, and as they bounce off, Ethan tells him that he knows that he's trying to convince him not to be the monster that Jonas wants him to be, but right now, this isn't one of those times. Damage grabs one of the gorillas by the foot and uses them to beat the others off of him. While Damage fights, Ethan tells him that he wanted to be a living weapon, right? He wanted to be walking warfare? This is his chance. Beat Damage! As Damage beats down on another group of gorillas, Grodd shouts, "That is enough! Stop!" Damage steadily stops his movements, and Ethan asks what's happening. Why aren't they moving? Grodd looks into Damage's eyes and states, "That's curious. I can hear the Damage creature, but my telepathic brownness is sensing a second consciousness trapped within, a human one. A weakling that fears his own power. One who wants to be a hero instead of a monster. Ethan Avery, I command you to be heard." Damage struggles and then he says, "Help me." Ivy asks, he wanted to be a hero? Ivy turns stating, "I wanted to be. This isn't right. People are worth saving." Damage struggles to talk again, and he says, "Don't make me, please." Grodd tells him, "No. You will smash anyone who gets in your way, and if you refuse." Damage groans in pain, hunching over, and Grodd goes on telling him, "I can see into your heart. Liquefy your brain. Turn your eyes into jelly." Ethan shouts, "Damage, fight!" But Grodd's control over Ivy slowly begins to fade, and she yells that she will not be a weapon. The vines begin to lift Grodd up, and Ivy screams that she will not be made into a villain by the forces of creation. Grodd gets back up, stating, "Foolish girl. I can control your mind, but I much prefer you be willing." While Grodd is focused on Ivy, Damage jumps up, punching Grodd, sending him flying across the field. Damage then jumps up on top, and as Grodd rolls Damage over, he tries to control his mind once again. Damage grabs Grodd by the head, bashing it down onto his forehead. Damage then stands back up, holding Grodd by his head, trying to squeeze. Ethan yells, "No! We don't have to kill him!" And as Damage slowly releases, Ivy grabs him by the shoulder, telling him it's all right. He can put Grodd down. Damage takes Grodd, throwing him to the ground, and Ivy goes on stating that she is talking to the man Ethan inside. She knows that he doesn't want to be a killer, and neither does she. They are beaten. Let them go. As the gorillas grab Grodd, they begin to make their escape with their king, and they soon vanish in a flash of light. Soon after that, Jose and his men walk out from behind the shack with knives, and the vines start reaching out. That's when they grab the knives, and Ivy says that she is no longer a threat. They won't be needing these. She's sorry for holding them captive, but fear not, Damage will be safe. Now go home. As Jose and his men run away, a large flower starts to wrap Damage up, and Ivy says that she's glad that she met him. Without him, she may not be able to fight back. The jasmine vines will help him sleep. Goodbye, Ethan, and thank you. Ethan tries to call out to Ivy, but his voice is muffled as the flower closes around him. 24 hours later, Ethan slowly wakes up in the forest yawning, and as he does, a voice from behind the bushes calls out, "Hello, Ethan." Ethan shouts, asking, "What the fuck?" But Swamp Thing interrupts him appropriately, telling him that he has nothing to fear. His name is Alec Holland, and he's the avatar of the Green, the life force that connects all plants to the earth. Ethan asks if he's the one who built the jungle, and Swamp Thing tells him that he has the power to do so, but he did not. The Green hid him from the events that took place. It does not approve of his affection towards humans. When his time as the avatar is finished, a new one will be chosen, and it wants someone more direct, one who asserts their influence. Poison Ivy given her power, she would become a warlike avatar that the Green desires. The day of reckoning for humankind is coming. Ethan says, but Ivy helped them. Without her help, they wouldn't be able to defeat Grodd. Swamp Thing tells him despite its considerable power, the Green has not yet conquered Ivy. She is strong. However, Ivy has more trials ahead. He needs a reminder of that. Just as the hero who became the monster can become a hero. Ethan sighs, stating that there are people who want to control him too, that made him into Damage, but he won't let that happen. He knows that this has something to do with the tomb of the unknown soldier in Washington, D.C. Swamp Thing begins to help Ethan down, telling him that there are people that he has helped that will help him on his journey, but there is something that he asks for in return. The jungle that Ivy created, it's an invasive species that belongs on another continent. It is pristine, full of green life. He cannot bring himself to destroy it. Ethan tells him that he understands, and as Ethan is set back down onto the ground, Swamp Thing fades into the trees. Ethan lets Damage out to destroy the forest, and the next day, Ethan heads onto a ferry off the bank of the Mississippi River, and as the boat takes off, Ethan tells the ferryman that he appreciates the help. The man says, "Nonsense. Alec Holland saved his boy from a gator. A friend of Alec's gets a free ride from me." Ethan then asks, would he know the best port so that he can head east to get to Washington, D.C.? As Ethan walks with the old man, one of the men from the handyman's unit steps out, stating that he's got some bad news. Colonel Jonas has a different destination for him. Now let's take a break for a moment so you know who Poison Ivy is. She is a fictional supervillain appearing in comic books published by DC, typically used as a villain for Batman. Her real name is Pamela Lillian Isley, and she's a Gotham City botanist obsessed with plants, ecological extinction, and environmentalism. Her powers range from her just controlling basic plants, and sometimes we've seen her do things like controlling the entire planet or controlling mass amounts of plants and greenery. She is connected to the Green, which is an elemental force within the DC universe that controls all plant life. Now let's take a moment to explain who Gorilla Grodd is. He's a character who appears typically in DC comic books, and he's primarily a villain of The Flash. He is an evil, super intelligent gorilla who has mental powers from being exposed to radiation linked to a meteorite. He's typically trying to gain control of Gorilla City by becoming the new ruler of it so that he can conquer the planet. He's typically stopped by the Flash or even by Solovar, the good super intelligent gorilla. And there you have it, more damage! Now, next week, we're going to bring you some more Injustice 2, but the week after that, we're going to bring you Sideways, Part 2. So you're going to get your superheroes that you want. Why? Because I like them too. Read a lot of... Why am I yelling? This is not normal. This is louder than usual. Bye.